Well, the truth is that power is an infinite resource. And particularly when we learn that the more we help each other, the more we all have.
Hi, I'm Deirdre Breckenridge. I've spent my entire career helping women to get unstuck, to share their stories, nurture relationships, and to grow their brands. But most of all, to find their voices so they can make a difference. Women Worldwide features the stories of passionate women and the ups and downs of their journeys. With deep insight and advice, let Women Worldwide ignite your passion so you can excel in life. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Worldwide. Thank you for showing up wherever you are in this world. We appreciate that you're dedicated and you're here with us every week, because with each week, we bring a new guest and a different story, and our guests know your challenges. They realize that it's not easy to fuel your passion and power up your own voice. It takes courage, determination, a lot of focus, and yes, perseverance. But most of all, Women Worldwide and our guests never want you to feel alone, that there's help around you. So our guests show up to be able to share advice and actionable tips because they have challenges too. Okay, I am so excited about this episode. I've been waiting months. I have to do some deep breathing to keep myself centered. The topic today is women, power, and leadership, and how women can take the lead. Joining me on the show today is Gloria Feldt. And Gloria is an acclaimed expert on women, power, and leadership because she has spent decades on the front lines. She is a best-selling author. She is also an in-demand keynote speaker. And Gloria is the co-founder and president of Take the Lead, whose mission is to prepare, develop, inspire, and to propel women forward so they can take their share of leadership positions across all industry sectors. Now, how is she doing this with her team? Well, they are training, mentoring, coaching, role modeling, and providing thought leadership. And she has a signature program called 50 Women Can Change the World. Now I'm going to say that again. 50 women can change the world. Imagine that. One more thing about Gloria. She is also formerly the national CEO of the largest women's health, reproductive, and advocacy organization. That's right, Planned Parenthood. Gloria, it is such an honor to have you on my show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Deirdre. I'm so delighted to be here.
Well, I know that I've got 50 questions to ask and 30 minutes, so I better get started. Okay, so I mentioned you are an acclaimed expert on women, power, and leadership. Maybe you can just share with us, what was the inspiration to get you started toward Planned Parenthood and Take the Lead?
Well, I didn't start from a place of power. And in fact, I was a teen mom. I married my high school sweetheart. We had 3 children by the time I was 20, living in small Texas towns where women weren't really given ambitions to have a career at all. But you were there to support everyone else, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it also depresses your sense of yourself and any aspirations that you might have for other kinds of roles in this world. And I drank that Kool-Aid. I wanted to be the epitome of the good woman, the perfect wife and mother. And, something happened after my 3rd child was born. It was like a light bulb went off. And my son, David, who is my youngest, still calls himself Mom's light bulb. And I can't tell you exactly what it was, but I will say that, it was the birth control pill came out right about that time. And I do think that sometimes a new technology can fuel a whole different perspective of ourselves. And I started to college. It enabled me to know I could, excuse me, it enabled me to know I could have a life of my own, there were many things I could do because I could then proactively and intentionally plan my life. And so I started to college. There was community college. I got involved in local community activities. I did a lot of public service. I got involved in the civil rights movement. And it was really just kind of a very short hop from there to realizing that if there are civil rights, women must have them too.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, once I had that epiphany, I saw what I wanted to do with my life. And truthfully, my career with Planned Parenthood was both wonderful and also serendipitous. I was offered a position before I knew not as executive director of the West Texas affiliate. I knew nothing about the organization. I had never run anything. I had been a teacher. I planned on being a teacher the rest of my life, but sometimes fortune puts you in the right place. And I discovered fairly quickly that I sort of had what I call the CEO brain, in that I will assume almost any level of responsibility in order to have the opportunity to put forth a vision and bring together the resources necessary to make it happen. And I'll take the responsibility for whatever bad happens as well as whatever good happens. And it just all worked out quite well. And 30 years later, after that serendipity, I retired as the national president. It was a great run. I had a wonderful time, and it's a very, very important that women have the ability to control their own fertility and choose for themselves whether and when they will become parents. But what I learned in that process, and actually for me, it was always about the larger issues of women's human and civil rights. So it really wasn't that much of a pivot to realize that what I wanted to do with the last act was to, or at least the third act, or maybe more, I don't know, was to focus on women's leadership more broadly on a bigger canvas, because I truly believe that the other thing all women need to have is the ability to support themselves and to be self-actualizing. And when you have those things, then you truly can be a full and complete citizen. You have the authority and the capability to live your life in a way that men have always done. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it just, I mean, to me, it's just only right and fair. And I believe in things being right and fair more than anything else. And so I want that for all women.
Oh, well, I believe in that too. You have an amazing story. I find it really interesting that you said that you wanted to be a teacher, and Gloria, you are educating us all. So there you
And I
go.
ended up always being a teacher one way or the other.
Exactly. That's just a part of your DNA. I also love that CEO brain that takes accountability because when things go right or when things go wrong, it's when you're a leader that's what it means. Did you feel as you were going along in your journey that you were there were other women around you supporting and strong? Did you sometimes feel like you were alone? How did men even fit into the picture?
I'm extremely grateful, very fortunate that I had a father who, from my earliest memory, said to me, "You can do anything your pretty little head desires." That was his favorite line, "Your pretty little head." So it was a little tad traditional sexist, but for a man in that era, it
Sure.
was very, very advanced. And he always spoke to me like I was an adult, like I had brains. Now, on the flip side of it, I saw the women in my life not behaving as though they had the agency to do anything or be anything they wanted to. So really, really my whole life has been a battle between those two extremes. And I have had to make a conscious effort, and it's probably why I'm so obsessively interested in women's relationship with power and intentionality, that I still fight those same demons in myself. I still, in my head, I know I can do anything or be anything, and that I have the power to do whatever. And yet sometimes in my emotions, I don't feel that way. So it's a constant struggle for me, even now, even with all the incredible things that I've had the opportunity to do, to be everything from the building up from the grassroots to the highest halls of power. And people will say, "Oh my gosh, you've done such amazing things." But you know what? I still have those insecurities.
And that's what makes you real, you know? And it's so great to be able to talk to you about this. What do you think are some of the qualities. So when you talk about preparing and developing women through your program, um, what are some of the qualities and characteristics that you want to draw out that are really important today when women step into these leadership roles?
Mhm. Well, the first thing is for women to understand the phenomenal power they actually have. And what I do in the training that I've developed, and that is our core program at Take the Lead, starts with redefining power and literally shifting the paradigm of power in our own minds from the oppressive way that has been looked at throughout history. Frankly, our history as it is written is the narrative of war, of fighting, of battles, of finite pie, where you have to struggle and fight for your little crumb. Well, the truth is that power is an infinite resource. And particularly when we learn that the more we help each other, the more we all have.
Good point.
And in addition to that, in today's economy that's based on brains, not brawn, it's not about who can fight the war the hardest. It's about who has the technology, who can muster the creativity, the innovation, the creative, to make life better for ourselves and our families and the world. And so first thing we do then is to shift that power paradigm and rethink power. So that's number one. And then recognize that actually the very things that have been said about women that culturally have been viewed as being less good, less worthy,
Hmm.
actually have conditioned us to have exactly the qualities now that are the reason why companies with more women in their leadership make more money. The
That's
reason why
interesting.
parliaments around the World Bank has looked at this, and they found that parliaments around the world that have more women in them have a better decision-making process. They're more peaceful, and more work gets done. Surprised? So, so yeah, it's what it is. What that does is we have been socialized to be more collaborative with each other because that was the only way we could survive. And when you are the oppressed group, you have to learn to read the room. You have to develop an emotional intelligence.
Oh,
So,
yes.
you have to be able to recognize what's going on beyond what people are saying. You just have to intuit those nuances and be able to utilize them productively. So it's those very things that we've been, people have always said, oh, this is
Put
what
down.
why we're put down, why we're the
Yeah,
weaker sex. Guess what?
that's
Well,
a
it's
power.
actually what makes us the ideal people now to do the work that needs to be done in today's world. So I want women to know the incredible power they have already in their hands. So that's the first part of it. And then I've developed what I call the 9 leadership power tools, which are very specific skills and tools that you can use to decide what you want to be and do. And then you have the skills to do them in whatever situation you're in. And then finally, we have each woman make, excuse me, we have each woman make a strategic leadership action plan for herself so
Excellent.
that she's accountable to herself. And in those 50 Women Can Change the World programs that you very kindly mentioned, we are able to have women together over a cohorts of 50 women together over a period of 3 months. And then we do 6 months of follow-up. And so during that time, the women form a cohort together in which they really help each other. They start sponsoring each other, hiring each other. That they're there for each other for whatever they need. So it's just it creates enormous breakthroughs for women, and we have to have those enormous breakthroughs if we're going to reach parity in leadership and pay and position.
Absolutely. Are you selecting the cohorts based on sectors that you feel women really need to present themselves with more leadership roles?
Yes, yes. Although there's not a sector that it couldn't work in, and
I
there's no
know.
sector that doesn't need it. And some of what we've done has been really, I would call it entrepreneurial. It's, there was a funder who wanted to do X, so it gave us an opportunity to test it out. Specifically, the American Express Foundation funds nonprofit leadership. So we've now done 3 cohorts of women in nonprofit leadership, which is great because they rarely have the opportunity or the funding to have
Right.
that kind of a rich leadership program, and so it enabled us to do that. We've done media and entertainment, journalism, healthcare. We're working on finance, law, tech. Those are some of the ones that we're looking at right now.
Oh, this is so exciting. Gloria, I'm just going to ask you to hold your thoughts for a moment. We're going to shift our focus over to the sponsor of today's episode. And our sponsor is Fabian Gerhalter. And Fabian is a brand strategist. He is the founder of a company called Finian. He's also an author, and he's been on Women Worldwide twice. So he's an alum. I've read a couple of his books, really, really a master of branding strategy. And he's launched an online course on brand strategy.
Great.
And before I dive in and give some details, I thought maybe I would just pick your brain a little bit on what do you see is the importance of branding when you're launching your venture or you want your business to flourish?
Gosh, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention my leadership power tool too, which is define your own terms first before someone else defines you. And that's really the core of what self-branding is all about. If you don't decide and define what you want people to think about you and how you want them to see you, they will make stuff up. They will brand you, and you want to be the person who's the who brands yourself.
Absolutely.
You want to be authentic to who you are, and nobody is youer than you, as Dr. Seuss says. So who, how do you want the world to see you? And that's what my power tool too is all about. Define your own terms before someone else defines you.
Now, it's really good that you said that, because Fabian's course, it's actually the online version of a workshop that he gives called Resonate. And he gives this Resonate workshop in person, but he took Resonate recently online, built a course, and it's so that professionals can really dive into what is their well-defined brand. And the reason being is because, in order for your business to flourish, internal and external audiences have to have clarity on what your business or your venture stands for. And Gloria, we both know that when branding is done right, it's powerful. There's a ripple effect. You kind of see from your internal culture to your marketing and sales that you're creating a much more focused and authentic story that people can believe in. And what happens when people believe in your story? Well, they show up, they want to communicate, they want to engage, they want to do business, and you can create impact together. So that's what Fabian's course really brings to the table. It's this brand strategy with the foundation. So listeners, if any of you are interested in branding strategy, a well-defined foundation and brand, and a flourishing business, then you can check out this course. I'll say the URL, but you'll also be able to find it in the show notes and in our YouTube description. It's tinyurl.com/Resonate. And Resonate is RESONAID. And remember, you can find it in the show notes. So Gloria, I want to thank you for sharing your insights on branding. And Fabian, thank you for sponsoring this episode of Women Worldwide. Okay, Gloria, let's jump back into our discussion. So you had touched upon, we were talking about the different sectors that you were building out in your programs. And, I want to step back a second, because before we were saying some of the qualities of leadership and what women have to do. And I'm looking at generations, and I'm seeing some differences. I've really, really been studying millennials and having conversations with millennials, women and men, not just females, to kind of understand the way they're communicating and how they're showing up and what their expectations are. And looking at this generation is, how are they going to be leaders? And I wanted to read a quote that is actually, it was from our daughter's blog, my stepdaughter. And Gloria, I'd mentioned this, that she passed away a year and 2 weeks ago.
Oh, so sorry.
Thank you. And this quote I'm going to read it and then just ask you if maybe you can give advice to younger women who are passionate and who want to have a voice and who are really, want to get involved and be leaders. So Noelle put this on her blog on August 1st, 2018. She left us September 17th. It is often difficult to feel that our words and thoughts have value. We live in an age where the internet is saturated with carefully curated and likely dishonest self-expression. Sometimes the idea of sharing ourselves online seems opportunistic, superficial, and vain. So, what do you say to young women? And Noelle was very active in women's rights and reproductive health. She was a part of the Women Worldwide team, but there's something there. Do you have any advice?
It reminds me that every generation has to speak in their own tongues, and the problems that they face will be different from previous generations. And so thank you for that reminder, because we all, wherever we start from is where we see the world. So that's certainly true. First of all, I think that part of that is that we all go through a phase. I don't know exactly her age at the time, but
24.
I'm assuming she was, yeah, that's what I was going to assume, was
24.
that she was in her early to mid 20s. And so I think that there is a phase of life in there where things can be very confusing. There's just things everything can be confusing, and it doesn't matter what generation it is. It's a time when you are having to define yourself, and I think for the current generations, there are so many choices now. Now, as a person who's fought for women to have choices in their life, this may sound counterintuitive, but one of the things I've learned is that it is anxiety producing to have a blank slate, and to have the total responsibility to choose your entire life's path. So I think, I think it's incumbent upon us in the older generations to help young people, men and women, get through that trough in life. But I think the thing that we can perhaps most help them with is to start them doing community service work, as she apparently did very early.
Yes.
Because when you have a purpose that's bigger than yourself, it really helps you to find yourself in that, and it helps you to have a sense of optimism. Optimism is, I think, one of the characteristics of people who are healthy and happy.
Yeah.
And generally who are successful as well. It's success measured by whatever measure you choose to have it. But I really believe that optimism is extremely important to cultivate. I noticed that, well, I'm just going to say that one of the things I learned in the opposite from my own mother was that you are unhappy all the time if you assume negativity, if you assume that things are bad, if you assume, if two people can see the same situation and interpret it very differently.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's hard when you're raising kids to help them have that sense of optimism, but just from my vantage point, of a very long vantage point,
yes,
in life, I feel like somehow managing to cultivate that optimism has a lot to do with feeling that you're part of a purpose that's larger than yourself, whatever that may be for you.
I agree. I think the optimism part is so important, and whatever we're feeding ourselves, our thoughts, have optimistic thoughts. That's going to help the way you feel. That's going to change the behavior and your outcomes. So thank you so much for your thoughts around what Noelle shared on her blog, and just giving advice to a younger generation that certainly, you're right, it's all different challenges. And on the note of challenges, so I did mention in the introduction of the show that, one of the reasons why our guests are so loved is because you're all real people and you have challenges. So maybe, Gloria, if you would just share, did you have challenges when you were at Planned Parenthood, and are they the same challenges now, or are all your challenges different today?
Mhm. It's a really great question, and I couldn't think of any one very wise answer to it. I feel that every day in life is two things. Number one, it's a series of choices. And you decide when you get up in the morning what your day is going to be and what it's going to mean to you and to other people. Nobody else can do that for you, no matter what. And the second thing is that the good news is nobody tells you how many opportunities you have in life to do different things. And you learn that along the way. Just when you think you're done,
There's more.
there's something new that happens, and you have to
It's
learn a new
endless.
skill. You have to learn a new skill. You have to learn, whatever. I mean, I am in what I call the age of loss. When, people, let's face it, we are all going to face illness and death at some point in our lives.
Right.
And what does that do? Well, first, it makes me really, really appreciative that I am fortunate enough to have good health, but I work at it. I work
Sure.
at it. I get up and I exercise every single day. I made
Good
my
for
my
you.
son, the baby boy that I was telling you about, who was my light bulb at age 20. He's now in his 50s, and I made him do Pilates with me last Sunday. And yes, you'll see a guy, a big
No, you don't see
hulking
that.
guy trying to do Pilates for the first time when he's that age.
That's
But you
awesome.
know, try to learn something new. Do something every day that's new if you can. And do something, as Eleanor Roosevelt used to say, do something that scares you every day.
Yes, that comfort zone, get out of it.
Yeah, get out of it, because it's all, if you keep yourself growing, then to whatever time you have in your life, you will make some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Learning and growing. Do you have any resources that you rely on that feed your soul, that help you to learn at this point in your career and journey, that maybe you can share, whether it's books or I don't know, maybe it's platforms you use online? Where do you go for information?
I actually am a reader. I have been a reader since I was 3 years old.
Nice.
When I was like in elementary school, I used my library cards, my mother's library cards, and both of my grandmother's library cards, so I could check out 16 books every 2 weeks.
I am not surprised. This is not a surprise,
So,
Gloria.
so I have always been a reader, and probably more than a communicator verbally. If there's a skill I need to develop, it's more, how to communicate with people about feelings verbally, because I get it from the reading that I do. So there's always something I can read to learn something more. And I listen to a lot of books now because, when you're pressed for time,
Oh, sure. It's
and
easy.
also wonderful podcasts like yours, Deidre.
Oh, thank
You know,
you. Thank you
uh,
so much.
it makes such a huge difference. It enables you to keep learning all the time. I actually do. I am serious about exercise. For me, is one of those things. It is what reduces my stress, and we
Good.
all have stress in our day. And
Yes.
a day without exercise for me is like the day without sunshine, proverbially. I, if I can get up and exercise, and generally speaking, read a newspaper or something that I've been wanting to read, then I'm ready for the day.
Oh, yes, that is great advice because exercise is for the mind as much as it is the body,
Yes,
right?
exactly. And I confess that I am a bit of a social media addict.
Oh,
Social media came onto the scene about the time I left my job at Planned Parenthood, and I was no longer constantly in an office with lots of people talking to me all day, every day. So I was writing books by myself behind my computer at home. And so social media became my water cooler.
oh, there you go.
And I know that people can feel that social media can be oppressive and can be
Hmm.
just too much. And actually, I want to say something about the bullying and the pressure. Let me put that aside. I'm going to come back to that because it is one of the things I learned from leading a controversial movement. But for me, social media really and truly is a way to stay in touch with people that I might not have the opportunity to even to get to know. And so I have been able to use it as a very positive thing to build my networks of resources, to know who I can call upon for certain things. There are people that I've done work with that I've never met in person, and yet we have this great relationship and trusting
Yeah.
relationship because we've been able to talk on platforms like this. And so it's been a very positive thing for me, and it really does help. What I want to say about the pressure, that I think, back to your question about young people feeling this incredible pressure from social media and this constant barrage of stuff on it that can be quite oppressive,
Yeah.
is that that the thing that I learned from leading a controversial movement was that the problem is with the other people, not with you. And it's whatever issues they have that they're struggling with
That starts coming out.
that
Yep.
starts coming out. And you know what? Controversy, if there's somebody who's viewing you as being controversial, or they're trying to bully you or to attack you in some way,
Yeah,
what that means is you're important.
that's right.
That means is you're doing something that has them agitated because it's something that's really important and probably needs to be done in this world.
Struck a nerve.
Right. And so it gives you a platform to
Mm-hmm.
speak your piece. It means that people are listening to you. So just don't pay any attention to the bullies. Don't pay any attention to the attackers, but it gives you a chance to speak to the rest of the people who probably are being quite intimidated by that as well, but they may not have the courage or the wherewithal to
Exactly.
speak up. So it gives you really an opportunity, an opportunity to use it as a platform, to teach, to encourage people, to show, to mobilize a movement,
Right.
basically.
Raise your voice
Raise
and
your
have
voice.
others come along with you.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do think there is good in social media, and you can carve out a lot of the noise so that it can feed and educate you. But you're right. When you start seeing those people lashing out, knee-jerk reactions, anger, it's because a nerve has been struck. And oh, Gloria, I think we could talk for hours
Right.
about probably Twitter and
Yeah.
striking a nerve. Maybe that's another show coming
Right.
soon.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it, but we're to the almost the last question, where I ask you just to share some parting advice about women power, leadership, and what you want everybody to know.
Yeah. What I want women to know, and I want every woman to know, is that you have the power in your hands to define yourself, to achieve what you want to achieve in life, and in your life and in your leadership, in your work, whatever it may be. You actually have the power. Even when we think we don't have power, we have power. And I encourage women to just take a piece of paper and write down 3 to 5 what I call your points of power. Get in touch with those special skills and talents, whatever it may be. It may be knowledge that you bring to the table, that you have, that is of value to yourself and to other people. And remember those, and always test back to those, because that's your authenticity, and try to build on those. You can't, nobody can do everything. Nobody can be everybody, but you can be yourself. You can be authentic. Know the power you have in your hands and use it intentionally for what you want to achieve in this great, wonderful, beautiful world that we have all been given.
Gloria, you made some really strong points and excellent advice. I hope everybody does that exercise. I'm going to do it. So thank you for that. And the last question, super easy. Where can people find out more about you and take the lead?
Thank you. I'm the world's worst. I never remember to say that. You can find me at gloriafeldt.com. And I am Gloria Feldt on all social media, because otherwise I would forget what I had made my handle. So I'm on practically everything. And
that's good branding.
Right? And you just have to remember that Feldt is spelled F-E-L-D-T. So There's an extra letter in there. And Take the Lead is our URL is taketheleadwomen.com. And we are Take the Lead Women on Facebook and LinkedIn. And on Instagram and Twitter, we are at Take Lead Women. So please come see us, talk to us, let us know how we can help. And we're very excited to help women reach that gender parity place by 2025, so I can be alive.
Wow. 5 years.
5 years. We got 5 years, ladies.
There is work to be done. Gloria, thank you so much. You are an inspiration, first off, and just sharing your journey and hearing your insights and your advice, really, really powerful. So thank you for coming on the show and for taking the time to help us today.
Thank you, Deidre. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. And I want to thank all of you listeners and anybody who's watching us on YouTube. Thank you. Please keep the feedback coming. We're hearing from guests and we're from you, and we're delivering guests so that they can help you. So leave comments on Facebook, tweet to us. We're on Twitter. You can go to the womenworldwideshow.com website, sign up for our updates, and please subscribe to the Deirdre Breckenridge YouTube channel, where you're going to get a show every single week. All right, friends, until our next episode, stay focused, energized, and feeling empowered. Thank you.